Hello YouTube world, Pretend Farmer here. Not a real farmer, just pretending. You know, here on the Pretend Farm, we've always been strictly chicken. And we remain strictly chicken, even to this moment right now. But the Pretend Farmer received a special opportunity this week to go down to a neighboring Pretend Farm and milk a goat. And I want to share that special moment with you. Now, many people know that chickens are kind of like the entry-level farm animal. They're the ones that everybody gets starting out their own homestead, and usually from there they'll progress into goats, then pigs, then maybe they get into some of the larger animals like cows or something like that. But usually it's chickens, and then people will generally get goats next. Now, Pretend Farmer has weighed this out, but if you watch till the end of the video after I show you the clip of me milking, by hand by the way, no machine, this is a good old-fashioned hand milking. But after I show you that, I'm going to explain to you some of the reasons why we have not got goats yet. Pretend Farmer's done the research, I've looked into it, I've weighed everything out. I'm holding off on goats for now because I've got some concerns about getting goats. And if you're watching this and you're a goat farmer or you know more about goats than the Pretend Farmer does, which is a good possibility, feel free to leave a comment down below if I've got anything wrong or misconstrued. Maybe I'm being too hard on goats. Maybe I'm overlooking something. But I've got some reasons why I haven't got goats yet and why I don't know if I'm gonna get goats. So, I'm okay if you want to try and talk me into it, by all means, but until then, enjoy watching me milk this goat. We shared a very special moment together. It's a very personal experience milking a goat. I would encourage everybody out there to do it, even if you're just a simple chicken farmer like the Pretend Farmer. Let's get into it. Are we all milked out? Are we all milked out? Goats, they don't want to say that they have sensitive digestive systems because goats can eat some really tough stuff. You know, they'll eat the bark right off of a tree. You know, the fact is they do have delicate dietary needs. Goats, you can't just feed them grains all the time because goats can actually get plugged up if they eat a lot of that stuff. And a plugged up goat is a dead goat. So really, Pretend Farmer originally thought you could just turn your goats loose in your yard and they would eat grass. But what I found was goats really don't even eat that much grass. Their primary diet should be brush. Goats really thrive off of eating brush. They'll eat a little bit of grains as a treat. They'll eat plenty of hay. But as far as grazing on grass, it's not like a cow where a goat's just going to clear acre after acre of grass off your property. They actually have way other stuff that they prefer to eat. And we do have some brush here on the Pretend Farm, but I was like, how are we going to fence them in to where they can eat this brush and not get out of the yard? And B, it's a limited supply of brush. So we run out of that brush, then what do? How do I make sure my goats are eating properly? So that was one of my biggest concerns, was just their dietary needs. Another reason was, that goats are a lot more maintenance than chickens. You got to get out there if you don't have a whole lot of rocky terrain they're going to be on, which we don't. You're going to have to go out there and trim their hooves pretty regularly. Their hooves will actually continue to grow. They can almost get like overgrown and cause them problems with their feet if you don't trim those on a pretty regular basis. You know, they need to be dewormed constantly. There's different medications that goats will need throughout their course of their life. It's not like chickens where you get one that gets a little sick or something, you just send them off to freezer camp or cull them. You're only out of a couple bucks. Goats, they live a lot longer, and you kind of got that obligation there to actually take a goat to a vet. There's vet bills for you. It's getting expensive now. Goats get sick, they need vet care, they need shots, they need all sorts of stuff that your chickens just, it's not even a thing with chickens. So there's a lot more care involved with goats as well. And there'd be a learning curve on that, but that wouldn't be anything the pretend farmer couldn't do. It's just, big learning curve there. Then there's the fact that, goats are really just going to be pets for us here on the pretend farm. We have chickens that give us eggs. We got Roscoe, our farm cat, that eats mice. I mean, Samson doesn't really do anything, but he's soft, so we keep him around. But yeah, everything we have here on the pretend farm serves a purpose. But when we get down to the goats, it's kind of like, well, they're basically just pets. They don't need a substantial amount of grass to save on any kind of mowing or anything. You really can't sell their milk for much. It's hard to find people that want goat's milk. You can make soap, but that's getting into a lot of work, and it's something that really, the pretend farmer, I don't know if we would really have time or patience to do soap or cheese or anything like that with goats. So really at the end of the day, the goats would be strictly pets for us. They would cost us money, and I'm not sure if they would serve a really useful purpose here on the pretend farm. What do you do with them? Other than make YouTube videos of me feeding them things and stuff, which, there again, you can't get too creative with a goat's diet or you're going to plug them up and they're going to have problems. And then finally is just the overall structure and the fencing that we have here. They would have to have a shed built. We don't have any kind of barn or anything, so we would have to build from scratch a small little shack or something for, I guess we'd probably start out with 2 goats. But, it doesn't take a very big structure for 2 goats to dwell in, but you still have to build one, and lumber is expensive. Then there's the idea of fences. Our fences are in horrible shape here on the pretend farm. We would have to get a lot of new fencing and do some major fencing upgrades. They say that if a fence will not hold water, it will not hold goats. And I think that might be a little bit harsh, because I think for the most part, if your goats are content, they're not going to try too hard to get out. But I do know that the fences have to be better than what we have here on the pretend farm, or it's just not going to work. So there is a lot of stuff that we would have to do on the pretend farm to get into goats. And goats would be a lot more work than our chickens. So that's why we've stuck with chickens here on the pretend farm this far. And I'm not going to say we're not going to venture out and maybe do some meat rabbits soon, or maybe just some pet rabbits in general. But that's probably going to be more likely our next step, rather than getting into bigger animals like goats or pigs or anything like that. So if you have any input on goats, feel free to leave a comment, and we'd love to hear from you. Is the pretend farmer overthinking this, or is the pretend farmer kind of right in his thinking? Leave a comment and let me know. Until next time, stay tuned. We got more chicken videos on the way. If there's one thing we do well here on the pretend farm, it is chickens. Mainly because that's all we got. Happy farming out there.